Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. You know, there's been a little bit of a conspiracy theory, a little narrative that's been floating on Twitter these days. Ever since the SCOTUS leak, people claim that it's a little bit oddly timed that it would get leaked right before peak 2022 election season. A lot of tweets are going viral claiming that this is going to be the single issue of the 2022 midterms. Democrats are going to lock on this. They have their messaging. Finally, it's going to be so good for them. This is their grand political strategy. Well, not so fast, not exactly. It seems as though if that was their strategy, it might have already backfired, because what it represents is another failure. It's another thing that happened during Joe Biden's presidency. It's another thing that came as a result of Hillary Clinton's massive 2016 loss, handing over 3 delicious SCOTUS scoops to President Donald Trump. Some vile leftoids are even going as far as blaming Ruth Bader Ginsburg for not retiring before Donald Trump took office. And so here's the thing. What Democrat voters are hoping is going to be their single issue for the 2022 midterms might actually be ripping the party apart, might actually be fracturing the base once again. And of course, you can't forget the red pill factor, that a lot of people are educating themselves, a lot of people are focusing on what Democrats are saying and then contrasting that with reality, and they're waking up to the Democrat grift. And a great example is none other than the Young Turks Network. And we're talking about Anna Kasparian from TYT, who just suffered a total, unmitigated meltdown on air, not even necessarily going after Republicans in her unhinged rant, but rather targeting her own political party, targeting the Democrat establishment for their continued effort. Quote, "I am done with the Democrats and I am done with the squad." Let me show you guys exactly what happened here. Let's take a look at what she's saying, and then maybe we'll go into some other topics and possibly some other meltdowns if we have more time. We got some stuff to get into, but of course, before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share this video as much as possible. Of course, we are still shadow banned by the YouTube algorithm, hidden from non-subscribed viewers. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so let me mash these 2 moments together. I'll try to condense it as much as I can, but just take a look at this.
We don't even have paid family leave. We don't even have affordable childcare in this freaking country. Okay, and the people who fight against those kinds of laws are Republicans.
And yet,
what do you want them to do with their kids when they have to go to work? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? I want them to answer that freaking question. Answer the question. Journalists, ask them the question. Ask them. Ask them. They don't care. They're
don't
fine.
care.
They're
don't
fine.
care.
They're all so old, they don't even have to worry about it affecting them. And if they're young enough where it would affect them, they'll get their abortion.
They're gonna fly to
They're
Paris.
trading individual stocks, enriching themselves. They're good. They're good. They don't care about you. Make sure you understand that and you feel it in your bones. They don't care about you at all. All of that fundraising, all of that canvassing, all of that hard work on the ground, they can't even get a voting rights bill passed. They're losers. If we're gonna sit around and wait for our elected lawmakers to protect us from these religious zealots and these right-wing authoritarians, man, we have another thing coming. How many times do we need to be disappointed by them? I'm done with them. And personally, I don't speak for everyone in this network. I want to be clear. I'm speaking for myself. I'm done with them completely. The Democratic Party, every single one of them, that includes the squad, I don't care anymore. They have not delivered. They have not delivered. I'm done. Okay. It's time to organize, create organizations that get women and get people in this country what they need. People who are willing to pick up the slack for these disgusting, feckless, corrupt politicians. That's what we need to focus on.
Furious progressive has meltdown on camera over possible SCOTUS Roe v. Wade overturn. Says she's done with losers in the Democrat Party, even the squad. It seems as though it's not exactly a rallying point for Democrats now, is it? It seems as though it's yet again just another failure to add to the list. Democrats might have gained power in 2020, but it just wasn't enough. They didn't get the Senate, so they can't pass anything significant. They've completely lost the SCOTUS and lost their generational opportunity, their window window to craft a Supreme Court in the eyes of the activist vision, and their voter base is losing it. And now I want to go into some of the things that Anna Kasparian said, and I want to try to be as fair as possible. First off, the idea that this Roe v. Wade overturn is the work of Republican religious zealots. Once again, we've debunked this a million times. It's a constitutional issue, it's an issue of law, and protecting the sanctity of how the American system works. Statehood. This constant fear-mongering and exaggeration that the specific medical procedure is going to be completely abolished. We're going back into the Stone Ages, and all of our rights and all of our freedoms are next on the chopping block is a complete joke. It's an exaggeration, it's an emotional, visceral reaction, and it's just flat out bogus. I'm not going to go too much into that because I've made countless videos tackling that exact issue. The next thing, where I want to try to be as fair and middle ground as possible, her rant about paid family leave, her rant about childcare and helping poor families. This is a point the Democrats bring up that I think they actually have a decent point. Should the government be more involved in helping mothers, in helping families, and of course low-income parents to create a more stable family environment and upbringing for all children in the United States? Yeah, I think so. I think that's a conversation where Republicans and Democrats can probably meet in the middle. But this idea that it's just Republicans that are standing in the way of all of it is again complete bogus. In terms of their own spending plan, they couldn't even get it by their own Democrat senators. Because here's the thing, if you're going to offer tax relief or tax credits, if you're going to help subsidize the most vulnerable families in American society, I don't think most Republicans have an issue with that. I think there's some libertarians who just want no government spending whatsoever. But if you presented a fiscally responsible, extremely targeted program and plan to help these families out, I don't think people would have an issue with that. I think a lot of people would be willing to give. When it comes to this idea of taxes, if there was a situation where people were paying a small amount and they knew that the money that they were spending, the money they were giving to government, was actually going to benefit society and help people, people would be way more willing to spend. The issue is this: Democrats spending, government spending is completely out of control, and people don't have faith in the system and where their money is going to. Until that issue is remedied, you will essentially never have Republicans on your side, but that's only part of the problem. The next problem is the games that Democrats play when they present legislation. If Democrats were to present something to the House floor that was a very focused ancillary bill, that wasn't $3 trillion, that was something modest, but that focused purely on one specific outcome, then again, you could probably get Republicans on your side. The problem is this: they put together these massive spending bills, they try to hide amnesty in them, woke indoctrination, and money going to all kinds of frivolous nonsense. It seems almost like a government money laundering program. It's total fiscal insanity, meaning Democrats and even many Republicans a lot of the times are spending more money than the US government is collecting in tax dollars, and that is what Republicans vote against. Democrats are totally disingenuous. They'll present this bill that has all kinds of pork and all kinds of garbage that has nothing to do with the actual bill itself, and then Democrats will be screeching on Twitter, on all the late night news networks, on all the primetime shows that Republicans are voting against all of these key programs that we're presenting. They're terrible people. They don't care about the American working class or American families. It's bogus. It's BS. Republicans, for the most part, are okay with government spending plans as long as they make sense, as long as the country can afford them. Republicans want a clean balance between fiscal responsibility and government spending, as well as less burden on basic American families so that those American families can thrive and survive without government assistance. That's the whole point. Where Democrats create these awful economic scenarios where people are essentially more impoverished, and then they want to spend even more money to solve the problems that they create in the first place. Democrats want to make it so black and white. We care. Republicans don't. We want to solve the world's problem and solve hunger and poverty and the childcare crisis in America, and just those pesky Republicans, those evil people keep voting against us. No, it's just your proposals make absolutely no sense, and they're almost always Trojan horse spending packages with so many little things hidden, like providing healthcare for illegals or amnesty, billions of dollars of funding to all kinds of foreign entities and foreign governments. The list goes on and on and on. And that was the entire point of nationalism and America First: spending money and investing in the American people, creating an economic environment where they can thrive, while also trying to create a fiscally responsible social net to take care of the most vulnerable. I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody, but I'd say probably most Republicans that you speak to, if you present the ideas in this way, would say, you know what, yeah, that makes sense. When Donald Trump presented his Platinum Plan for Black America, investing investing $500 billion in Black American communities and entrepreneurship. In Black American communities and Black entrepreneurship, I don't think people were outraged, oh my god, it's socialism. I think for the most part, people were like, this is an investment, and hopefully it actually does something, and it's productive, and it creates business, and it starts getting money turning, and the price point makes sense. I mean, for Pete's sakes, we gave Ukraine more money already. Or if we haven't, I mean, we're pretty close to that number, is probably what most Americans are thinking. It's almost like a blank check that goes to fighting everybody else's battle at the detriment of the American taxpayer. You know, the passion is fine. Anna Kasparian is pissed. We don't have this, we don't have that. But this is constantly the issue. These far lefty Democrats act as if the United States government and the Federal Reserve is just a blank check, an ATM machine that's been hacked or hijacked that will just endlessly print you money for no matter what you want without consequence. No. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's plan was, oh, so nice and fluffy. We're gonna save the planet. We're gonna end student loan debt. We're gonna stop the cow farts. But the whole thing falls apart when you simply ask the question, how are you gonna pay for it? And if your political stances and your fiscal policy falls apart at that simple question, then evil Republicans aren't the problem. The problem is probably you. I don't know, that's just my perspective. Maybe it's more of a moderate perspective. I think there has to be a balance between little government interference and low taxes and allowing people an environment to thrive and succeed for themselves, mixed in with maybe some very specific, very targeted social platforms that are helping the most vulnerable and not being abused by the mass public who are just lazy and don't want to work. And until that balance is found, until the math checks out, until the accounting checks out, Republicans, conservatives are just not going to be on your side, and it's that simple. So maybe have that conversation instead of the outrage, instead of the meltdown, instead of the craziness, and most importantly, fix the fiscal, financial craziness, because that's the core of the issue. And if 2021 and 2022 aren't teaching you that exact lesson, and you're still convincing yourselves that your policies are helping the most vulnerable Americans as they get poorer and poorer each and every single day, and as regular families cannot afford homes anymore because of the fiscal insanity, then you're just not paying attention, or you just don't care. It's that simple. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.